Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Rip N Riff. Not you, John Fisher, if you happen to be catching this. You're not welcome here. But everybody else, welcome into it.
Sand.
Yeah, you go exactly like Jared said. What you can do out in the desert now once you get to Vegas. Welcome in, Rip N Riff. I'm at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. That man over there is at Mr. Jared Moore. We are excited. It's the first episode of October. Can you believe we have turned the calendars into the month of October?
I can't do the Francesa thing where it's like, you look up, it's week 4 already, and then the next thing you know, you're a wild card. I can't do that on this show, man. I'm sorry. I'll do a lot of Francesa bits. I can't do that one.
Well, I mean, it may be a bit, but it's no less true. Here we are. I mean, Halloween decorations have already started outside. I mean, here we go. I mean, there's the Christmas stuff up in like the Costco's in the world already. Forget it like that. But that's a whole other issue. We're here to rip cards today, talk some sports, have a little fun, get some stuff off our chest. That's what we do. We appreciate you tuning in each week. There you see on the bottom at Rip and Riff on all the YouTube, X, Facebook. Check us all out over there. It's been a good week. It's big fantasy hockey week, draft week, NHL season kicking off later this week in Europe, and then next week for everybody here stateside. And should be a good week. Football. We are right in the smack in the middle of week 4 here. We're about to be in week 5. A lot to talk about. But before we get to our Rip and Rants, which I know one of them is at least football related, we're going to go to the pack ripping lineup today. And Jared, you've got some baseball you're going to close us out with, correct?
Yeah, nothing says previewing the 2024 MLB playoffs like ripping open packs of cards from a year before 95% of the players that will be playing in the playoffs were born. So we're going to do some 1990 Fleer packs. I got 2 of them right here. You see the rookies on that screen. Deion would always be a fun pull to get. Frank Thomas, my dude Sammy Sosa. We pulled the Sammy Sosa rookie on this show before. I don't remember if it was this pack specifically or a different pack, but nonetheless, Bernie Williams, Larry Walker's a Hall of Famer. So there's a lot of interesting rookies there that we would certainly love to get our hands on. In terms of their cards, not actually literally get their hands on. That would be weird.
No. We don't want to commit any sort of like minor grade assault or anything like that. We're not actually trying to touch anybody. We have pulled Deion Sanders rookie before. Remember, Matt Deutsch pulled his football rookie back in the football kickoff edition last season. Bernie Williams rookie would be pretty good. Now you'll see what I got on the screen there. We've got 1998-99 Gold Reserve Upper Deck Hockey, 1 pack of those. Looking for the Wayne Gretzky or Steve Yzerman Gold Reserve sticks or signatures. That was back in the people take for granted nowadays collecting cards. Just like how many autographs are in there, like of different players and all that. Like back then, they would basically pick like 2 players and be like, "Here, this is what you got, Yzerman or Gretzky." It's not like an autograph per team or anything like that. So we'll hopefully crack one of those open. Putting the rookies back up on the screen: Marty St. Louis, Milan Hato. Not a strong rookie class that year. But we're going to kick things off when we get to football in a few minutes there with, we've had some good success with those 2021 Panini Contender Draft Pick packs. Those have been fun. Some good cards come out of those. So we'll do one of those again today. But before we get to ripping packs, we have to get some things off our chest and one of our favorite segments. It's time to kick things off on Rip and Riff with
my Rip and Rant.
Thanks, Dave. Now, we're going to close with a baseball pack, so we may as well open with a baseball Rip and Rant. Now, just a little a little behind-the-scenes thing. We're actually recording this on Monday, airing Wednesday, but a couple big baseball games going on today, Jared.
Yeah, and as a baseball fan, I'm really looking forward to watching this Mets-Braves doubleheader and just seeing like how this ultimately shakes out. And I know a lot of people the last few days have been saying this is really unfair that the Mets and Braves might have to play a doubleheader on Monday because of the hurricane that impacted the whole southeastern region of the United States. And hopefully anybody that's dealing with that gets through their situation relatively okay. Obviously, we want to wish the best for anyone dealing with that. But, yeah, I mean, it's just it's not ideal. The Mets and Braves playing a doubleheader today. If you win a game, you're in the playoffs, basically. That's how the tiebreakers all work out. And you have those 2 teams playing. You have Arizona, who's sitting on the sidelines rooting for one of these teams to sweep the doubleheader so they can get in. And then you have all the wild card series beginning tomorrow. And people saying it's not fair. They got this quick turnaround time. And to that, I say, tough shit. tough. I mean, if you want to, if you didn't want to be in this situation, this baseball is a very long season, 162 games. For the Mets and Braves, they have 160 games in the books. And I know it's not quite as simple as like pointing to some random game in May or June and just saying, if we just won that game, we wouldn't be in this situation. But if you just won that game, you wouldn't be in this situation. So, I mean, it kind of is what it is at this point. If you're a Mets fan or a Braves fan, you just hope you win one of these games. You get in and you move on to the next city, whether it's Milwaukee or San Diego hosting the NL Wildcard Playoff Series. But I really don't have any sympathy for teams that are going through this situation because you got 160 games up to this point to not be in this situation.
Now, the one aspect of the gripe I will give a little legitimacy to is they could have squeezed one of these games in before they had to clear town for the Hurricane Helene related, planning. And you'd only have to play one game today. It does stink to have to play a doubleheader and then get right on a plane and then have to start. So one game, whatever, a doubleheader the day before that probably could have been avoided. I get that. But yeah, like teams sometimes have to go down to game 163 and then they're right on a plane to wherever they got to start the series next. It's part of the time of the year for baseball. This is it. This is the grind season. This is, you're in the postseason. Maybe it's not ideal that you're going in, with, a rested Padres team or a rested Brewers team for the day off they've had where you played 2 games the day before. And maybe you were in a situation where you had, if you lose the first one, you have to play your starters in the second one. You know what I mean? So, I get that, but don't be in that spot. Don't be in that position.
Right. And to that point, Milwaukee and San Diego, Milwaukee won their division. San Diego wrapped up their wild card spot a week ago. So they've had an opportunity to line up their rotation the way they want to line it up and to approach this past weekend how they wanted to approach it. Milwaukee dropped 2 out of 3 to the Mets, and San Diego was playing Arizona. So obviously Arizona is fighting for their lives there as well. But I mean, when you clinch early, you have the right to approach this how you want to approach it and sort of set things up the way you want to set it up. And when you're in a situation like the Mets and the Braves and the Diamondbacks, you're sort of at the mercy of others. So I just don't have any sympathy for that. And you mentioned they could have maybe moved one of these games up, I guess, but I don't blame the Braves for wanting to do things the way they wanted to do it. They're looking out for their best interests, and I guess they figure their best interests were to do this on Monday because we have the ace in the hole, Chris Sale, if we need it. And he'll pitch game 2 if the Braves need to win game 2 today. So, if the shoe was on the other foot, I feel like the Mets would have done these. They would have done whatever was in their best interest. So I'm not going to blame the Braves for doing that. That's on MLB to step in and figure out the right way to sort of approach this entire thing. But it's not a good situation. But these teams put themselves in. I don't feel bad for any of them.
And let's face it, Mets Braves is always a classic, NL East rivalry that, so as if you're not a fan of one of those two teams, it's going to be fun to have those games on today watching. I'm not a big baseball watcher during the regular season, but playoff baseball, you bet. Absolutely.
And this is as close as you're going to get to playoff baseball without actually being playoff baseball. So, I have SNY on the TV in front of me. I know the first game, first pitch is about half hour for now. So I'm really looking forward to watching both those games today during the day.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be a good baseball playoffs. Our Yankees, after all that worrying and up and down we've had in the season, they clinch the division. They clinch top overall spot in the AL. So things could have gone a lot. Things have been going well. We've dodged some speed bumps, and we'll see what happens here come playoff time and see if they can not choke.
They will likely be the target of a Rip N Rant next week at some point. I would imagine, but I can't complain about something that hasn't happened yet. So I guess you just have to wait and see the games play out. I feel like I will say for the Yankees, I feel like the playoff draw is about as good as you could ask for the Yankees. You get the home field through the AL. You get the first series off. Obviously you want to play as I know they say that extended rest is not good for the teams that are getting it, but I disagree. I think you want to play less games just because there's just less variance by playing less games and more of a chance of something horrible to go wrong. And in terms of the draw itself, all right, they're going to get whoever wins the Baltimore Kansas City series first, and I'm not really necessarily scared of either team, and then they'll get whoever survives that in the ALCS if they advance that far. And the only team in the AL that I'll keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. The only team in the AL that scares me is the Houston Astros, and that's just an almost decade-long history of the Yankees never beating the Astros. And the last thing I want to see Game 1 Yankee Stadium is Framber Valdez shoving for 7 innings against the Yankee lineup. The last thing I want to see. So I'll take my chances against anybody else.
See, sometimes I'll buy the too long of a rest period can hurt you, but I think the Yankees clinched first overall in the division. It wasn't too early. They had to play right up until a couple of days before the season, so I think they're going to get that right balance of being off, but not like not having had to play a game you've had to worry about in 2 weeks kind of thing either. So I think that's a nice mix there. Now let's we're going to stay with the New York team here. We're going to talk about my Rip and Rant now, which is the New York Jets. And
oh boy.
And I'm not going to blow my top. I'm not at that level yet. It's week 4. And I have this theory now that the one less preseason week 1 in the NFL, I don't even get mixed up with that. Like, to me, that's just like a rust off week. So we're through 4 weeks. Jets lost a tough one to Denver at home. That was probably one a lot of us had a W chalked up for. I thought the Patriots game on Thursday night would go the way yesterday's game went, where it was a tighter game, but the Jets maybe still win, and then they would have blown Denver out. Kind of went the other way around, where they had the really convincing start to finish victory over the Patriots. And then Denver, obviously, Rodgers commented on the weather and it affecting his crappy throws. Then there's the issue of the cadence with the false starts and stuff like that. And what I'm starting to get worried about is if this season is going to come off the rails, and as a Jet fan, you always have to look for the way it's going to come off the rails. Can it not be over this Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh pissing contest alpha? I understand Robert Saleh. He's not a coach that Rodgers is necessarily going to respect. He's not an Andy Reid. He's not a Bill Belichick. I get that. But on both sides, maybe Robert Saleh, maybe just hands off the offense a little more and let the future first ballot Hall of Famer, multi-time MVP do what he's got to do. Keep your hands off a little bit. And Aaron, can you just show a little bit of deference and respect for Robert Saleh, even if it's just for the cameras, so we don't have this bullshit storyline of the quarterback versus the coach, and somehow that derails the season. Because right now the defense looks really good. The offense. Listen, yesterday was not good. Let's see what happens in London against the Vikings this week, who are all of a sudden 4-0. Who the hell had that on their bingo card? This could be a good season. The Tua injury has taken one of those teams out of the running for the AFC. So now it's you in Buffalo. Can we just keep it on the field and just try and keep the focus on the field, and whether you respect Saleh or not, just let it go to the end of the year.
Yeah, that Monday night game in Buffalo in 2 weeks is going to be a huge game between the Bills and the Jets, and probably will be an indicator of which team winds up winning the division. I still think it's going to be Buffalo, even though they spectacularly crapped the bed last night. I got a lot of thoughts on this game. First of all, you mentioned the weather, and even though Rodgers has plenty of experience playing in the elements, I mean, those were just gross conditions yesterday at MetLife Stadium with the rain and the wind, and it wasn't even so much like a heavy rain. It's more like that misty kind of. I mean, if you lived in New York, you've certainly been through enough of those sort of days in the fall. So
ever-present mist.
Yeah, the ever-present mist with the wind swirling in the Meadowlands. If you've ever been to Giant Stadium or MetLife Stadium, you know exactly what we're talking about with that. So that's one thing. Number two, I guess shout out to Sean Payton for the Nathaniel Hackett double revenge game after the Jets took part 1 last year. I guess Denver gets the final say this year in that respect. So. Look, I mean, the issue with the Jets is one of the issues we've seen with the Jets the last few years. The team it's undisciplined. They commit a million penalties every week. They committed a million penalties last year, and I know a lot of that will have to do with the offensive line, the cadence. But when you're giving up 10 penalties a game and you keep shooting yourself in the foot, what do you expect to happen? And Rodgers is obviously trying to do what he is to play through it, but The Jets are showing why you can't trust the Jets. I guess is the best way of putting it. But like between that and like Breece Hall doing nothing yesterday, and Rodgers was just kind of pedestrian. He kept missing Garrett Wilson on almost every throw, and the lack of chemistry there is alarming. Like it seems like the only receiver he really has chemistry with is Allen Lazard. Which, interestingly enough, Allen Lazard was left for dead last year when Rodgers was out, and now Allen Lazard's probably like a top 30 receiver in the league again now that Rodgers is back. So go figure now that he has his safety blanket back there. And you mentioned pulling up the Jets schedule. I'm looking at it right now. Home again. I say home. Neutral site against the Vikings. Home against the Bills on that Monday night. At Pittsburgh. I mean, it's a rough schedule. They have a game in New England sandwiched in there, but then they have Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis. Like Seattle's going to be a tough game. They still have the Dolphins twice, but the Dolphins might have Tua back by then, so you never know. They have the Rams, so it's not an easy schedule, and I've never really bought the Jets as a playoff contender. Like to me, this has the makings of the Jets 8-9, 9-8. Maybe they get in as a 7th seed in the playoffs, but like they're not legitimate title contenders, in my opinion.
No, I mean, when you look at the remaining schedule, games you would potentially call easy would be the Patriots and the Cardinals, and both of those are road games. Jacksonville showed some life last night, but we'll see what's going on by December 15th. It's again,
and I wouldn't call the Cardinals easy. Like Kyler Murray can make plays. Like I know that'll be interesting with that matchup, like them against their defense, and we'll get to that game when that comes up in the schedule. But like I wouldn't consider that a pushover game. Just like I wouldn't consider like Jacksonville a pushover game, even though Jacksonville's playing about as poorly as anybody right now.
I'm not stark raving mad right now because they lost to the Broncos, not because the Broncos came out and blew the doors off the Jets. The Jets just couldn't get out of their own way, and Denver was just good enough to win. So right. I'm not like stark raving mad about that. That's a game you might wish you had back if you make the playoffs and there's a tiebreaker scenario where now you're on the road instead of being home or division or whatever the case may be. But just, go to London, have some fish and chips, beat the Vikings. It's a Sam Darnold revenge game factor here too. Like that's not going to help. If Sam Darnold comes out and beats the Jets, now you're going to start having problems with the Browns. Now it's going to be rough. And it's, like if the Vikings win, but it can't be because Sam Darnold went out and gunslung and threw, went 20 of 30 for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like that can't happen.
Do we call yesterday a Zach Wilson revenge game or not really?
No, because he didn't really.
Anything.
Zach Wilson's revenge game is going to come next year or the following year on some to be determined team. Like it's coming. Like it's going to happen.
When Zach Wilson's like quarterbacking the Titans and they come to town.
Correct. It's going to be like one of those random scenarios and like, here it is. And he does it. Like, that's what's going to happen. Let's get to some football cards before I do get stark raving mad.
I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to get your blood boiling on a Monday.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you have all those Sam Darnold cards like that we like pulled or mystery slabs. Oh, yeah. They might be coming back to life here. So we're doing the 2020-21.
List those on eBay.
The timing might be right, my friend. Let's bring up the West Coast Rip Cam here, and we'll do a little football to continue it here. Get that in the frame. Always like to have the pack there. First up, Georgia, big game against Alabama over the weekend. What an ending there. But there's Roquan Smith, Georgia linebacker, now with the Ravens. Big win last night over the Bills.
Yeah, big win by the Ravens over the Bills and big win by Alabama holding off Georgia. So not a lot of teams in college football can say they have Georgia's number, but Alabama would be one of the few teams on the list that could say they actually do.
All right, so Roquan Smith there. Also, IDP stud. I've had him in both leagues. He's been nothing but great. Here's a guy for you, and this is kind of cool to see Adam Thielen in his college uniform there with the Mavericks there. But I know that's a guy you're trying to maybe peddle or wait to come back in your for our dynasty league, if I'm not mistaken.
No, honestly, right now, like I could use that Adam Thielen in the lineup. So it's disappointing that he suffered that hamstring injury and went on IR. So, just as like Andy Dalton got in there and like just as the offense looks competent now that they actually have, a functioning quarterback and a functioning offense, like of course Adam Thielen gets hurt. That's sort of been the luck this year. And I say this for me, and like, look, I don't expect anyone to necessarily feel bad for me with the success that I've had in these leagues the last couple of years. It feels like there's been more injuries to more key players in fantasy this year than there's been in quite some time.
I also feel like the season's kind of been lackluster so far overall. Like it's been like okay.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of great games yet.
A lot of field goals. Now it's interesting that these two quarterbacks are back to back. Two of the top, 4 quarterbacks in the AFC. We got Patrick Mahomes here, picture with Texas Tech. I know they're not going to go undefeated, but I mean, wouldn't that just be the story? Like last year was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and the American romance happening on there. And now the Chiefs with potentially Kelce's last season, they find ways to win these games. They're winning close. I don't know. Maybe that would be the storyline. Can they go undefeated this year? Probably not.
I will answer that question. No, they will not go undefeated, because when you play this many close games, eventually the calls aren't going to go your way, and eventually like somebody's not going to make a play. And they suffered a big injury yesterday with Rashee Rice, and really unfortunate luck there with Patrick Mahomes sort of being the guy who caused it. But that's a rough situation there, and knowing the Chiefs, they're going to drop a couple games to somebody along the way. Like they still have a game in San Francisco coming out of the bye week. They have Tampa Bay on the schedule. Tampa Bay looks really good right now. They still have to go to Buffalo. They almost lost to the Chargers yesterday. They have the Chargers again, so they still have Houston on the schedule. So they're certainly not going undefeated.
All right. Yeah, I hope not, because I can't. Let the Chiefs lose soon, please. They're starting to become the team everybody dislikes. And we got Joe Burrow right behind them. So much for calling Arrowhead Burrowville or Burrowhead or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Burrowhead.
Let's calm down with that. But
not his smartest career move. But hey, I mean, give Cincinnati credit for getting on the board and getting a win. I know it's Carolina, but you got to win the games that you got to win, and that's one they certainly needed to have. And now they're going into a big game next week against the Baltimore Ravens for the AFC North division rivals. So very much a tough spot. Baltimore looks like one of the best teams in football right now. So very curious to see how that game plays out.
So the Bengals beat the Panthers. I was talking with my buddy the other day. I really enjoy when like 2 big cat teams play each other or 2 bird teams play each other. So like, Bengals, Panthers, it's like a battle for like jungle supremacy. I kind of like that. If the Ravens play the Eagles, it's for aerial supremacy. I don't know. I sound like an idiot right now, but I just love those matchups.
If you had to kill one of those animals to survive, would you rather take on a Bengal or a Panther?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you're kind of screwed either way, because the Bengal tiger is just massive. It's like, they say the lion's the king of the jungle. No. The tiger will eat a lion alive. So you're dealing with, it's a lost thing there. But the Panther, you never see coming. The Panther is, maybe size-wise, you have maybe a better chance. But I mean, they're still pure muscle. That you still can't see them. They're going to be on top of you before you can even react. So if we're picking which way I'd rather go, it's probably the Panther, because he probably won't even see it coming, whereas the tiger may maul you, You might feel that one.
I certainly respect that opinion.
I mean,
I'll take a smaller animal. I'll take like the Baltimore Raven.
Okay. I mean, you got the Jaguar too among the kitties, so that's no easier. The Lion, of course, I mean, you don't want any of those.
Chicago Bear.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams I would not want to actually deal with the real life mascot or the actual mascot. A Pittsburgh Steeler would be one you could probably just have a beer and hang out with. And there's Minka Fitzpatrick. Devontae Adams did not play this past week. Didn't matter. Raiders still got the victory over a lowly Browns team. But, it'll be interesting to see what happens to him if he gets moved by the trade deadline.
Yes, and I also wouldn't want to take on like a Raider with my life on the line. Pirates and like swashbuckling, and like
they're trained killers.
Yeah, exactly. They've very low standards in terms of what is acceptable. So.
Yeah, we got we'll do with Jordan Love here for the Packers. Same thing as like a steel worker. I feel like you go out, you just have a beer with them and maybe a burger after work, and those are cool. Those are 2 you can hang out with.
Yeah, go to the bar, have some cheese curds and whatnot, and nice to see Jordan Love back. Obviously, they didn't pull off that comeback yesterday against the Vikings. When you dig yourself that deep a hole, I mean, what do you expect? But I think at least there's some positives you can draw from that game if you're a Packers fan in that respect.
The fact that you did get back in the game, and yes, the kicker missed a couple of field goals, so that didn't help you because that changes that whole last drive. You know, instead of having to get 2 scores, you only have to get 1 if he makes even one of those kicks. But you know, that's neither here nor there. We got a Trey Sermon rookie card that certainly had higher hopes a couple of years ago, not so much anymore.
Don't get me started on Trey Sermon, and it looks like Trey Sermon might be back in fantasy relevant circles because Jonathan Taylor suffered an injury, and now he's the backup in Indianapolis. So next man up.
Guy who's not fantasy relevant anymore, Myles Gaskin.
I'm not sure he was ever fantasy relevant.
Touche. We got Tre'Davious White here, pictured at LSU. Juju Smith-Schuster, another guy, speaking of no longer fantasy relevant. I know he's back in Kansas City, but like if you want to deal with that, you go deal with that.
No, not at all. I wonder if the Chiefs go out and trade for a wide receiver now that Rashee Rice injury is hit. Like if I were the Giants, I'd be trying to pawn off Darius Slayton on them.
I mean, you know, Devontae Adams was named that just came up. I can't imagine the Raiders and Chiefs would ever make a big trade like that, you know, considering they are big rivals. You never know. Maybe that's what the Jets do is they go out and they just go all out and bring in Devontae Adams if there's still chemistry issues with Garrett Wilson here in a couple of weeks.
I mean, they're just going to make the receiver room even more crowded with Adams and Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams is going
to get hurt at some point.
Well, of course, I know you can set your watch to that, but I mean, Devontae Adams is hurt right now. So, like, do you really want to go out and trade for an injured wide receiver?
I mean, you know, if Devontae Adams is reunited with Aaron Rodgers, I wonder if how much that injury is play-throughable. You know, we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks, but you know, I don't know. I'm at the point with the Jets where it's whatever happens with Rodgers this year, that's going to be what happens. Like, and then next year we're going to have to figure out the whole quarterback situation and all that. So just go all in with Rodgers here. You brought him in on a 2-year deal. You got screwed out of the first year with the injury. Why not, like, with this franchise? Just go all in. Just make it, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's the same result for the Jets every year anyway. You may as well push all your chips in once in a while. Yeah, Pat Fryer moved there, a front row seats. That's kind of a cool shot there. Running over somebody. I can't see from what school, but
yeah, it looks like he has a front row seat to Patrick Fryermuth's knee right there.
Yeah, he got knee, thigh, maybe a little bit of the forearm on the way down. Speaking of, we spoke about big time receivers before. DeAndre Hopkins there, picture with Clemson.
Yeah, that might be another receiver that winds up getting traded at some point because the Titans are a team that's not going anywhere this year, and I don't know how many prime years DeAndre Hopkins has left. It's also another situation like Devontae Adams though, where he's been banged up. Like he was on limited snap count the first couple of weeks and played a little bit more this past week. So we'll see what ultimately happens with D Hop.
All right, we got 5 cards to go, and they're all pretty good here. Well, not the first one. Melvin Gordon, the third picture with Wisconsin there. I think I'll always remember him for his facial reactions to things that Russell Wilson was doing on the Broncos sideline. And those were always just classic shots there. So thank you for that, Melvin Gordon. A running back with a big week this week. Vintage Derrick Henry on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, Derrick Henry showed he still has quite a bit left in the tank. That 83-yard touchdown run was certainly a really good run and almost put up 200 yards. He's probably one of the older running backs in the league. There's a lot of tread on those tires, but don't tell that to Derrick Henry.
I think the strategy with the Ravens and Derrick Henry is they're like, listen, a few games a year, we're going to need you to be vintage Derrick Henry, but the rest of the season, we'll take it easy on you and give you a lighter workload. But against like the Bengals and the Bills of the world, we're going to need you. And maybe that's the plan. Maybe a week they play, the Giants is a week Derrick Henry's not going to have a big day. But
no, that'll be a big Justice Hill week.
Yes. I mean, but you look at the Ravens schedule coming up here. You got the Bengals a couple of times, the Bucks, the Commanders are all of a sudden a top-notch team. The Steelers always tough. Philly, Pittsburgh Pittsburgh, Houston, Cleveland a couple of times. Those might be gimmies, but they're going to earn it this year. And whoever comes out of the AFC on top is going to earn it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, 3 cards to go here. We got Aaron Rodgers, who we've talked about plenty throughout the show. Pictured Cal Berkeley there. Looks happier there, that's for sure. We got Lamar Jackson.
That's probably before the internet rotted his brain.
We got Lamar Jackson also just going out and proving that he can be the quarterback he needs to. Not a huge night, but win's a win, and that's what matters. And then we close out with J.J. Watt.
Yeah, that's a who's who right there of future Hall of Famers and NFL All Pros and just great NFL players in their collegiate digs. So pretty cool to see that.
Joy, like these packs did not miss. We opened 3 of these on Rip and Riff over the past few seasons, and they've all been fun. They've all been good stuff there. So we're gonna transition now over to the NHL. Big fantasy hockey week. I've already got a few drafts in the book, a few more coming up. And that reminds me, if you happen to catch this before Thursday, Total Hockey Now is going to be doing their live redraft league draft Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Be sure to check that out. Devils open their season overseas against the Sabres, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Prague. Yeah, the Devils flew over last night.
So how do we feel about, like, to me, when a team opens in Europe, it almost doesn't feel like it feels like this weird in between, like kind of purgatory between the preseason and the regular season. Like, I know the games count though in the standings. It just doesn't feel the same when they open the season somewhere in Europe. It's a trip I'd like to do for the Rangers one year, but just not the same.
It certainly feels weird. And the Devils have not looked great in these preseason games thus far. Now look, it's just preseason, and Sheldon Keefe, new coach. Team's learning a new system, so I would say it's way too early to hit the panic button there. But yeah, also the team needs to look a lot better than they did. They had their quote-unquote dress rehearsal Friday night against the Islanders, and it did not go well. They lost 5-1 and were just generally uncompetitive in the game. So hopefully they'll be better in the Lindy Ruff revenge spot.
Listen, it's like you said, new coach. You brought in a couple of new faces this year, especially on the blue line. It'll take a little adjustment period. I don't worry the first couple of weeks of the season. They'll find their way.
They've also had a few injuries in the blue line. Luke Hughes is going to miss the first few weeks of the season with a shoulder. Brett Pesce has been slow to recover from off-season ankle surgery, so he didn't even make the trip to Prague. And they lost one of their depth defensemen, Santeri Hitaka, in one of the preseason games. So it looks like if you want an interesting fantasy sleeper for at least the first couple weeks, he probably won't go drafted, but Seamus Casey would be an interesting guy because he might see some power play 2 time, and he is certainly a puck-moving defenseman who skates well, and he's probably going to start out on the Devils' bottom pair.
There we go. A little fantasy tip there, too. Jared just brings it all, and all about the jersey.com, where you can check out his Devils work there. Certainly going to be busy there this year. So let's do a little 1998-99 Upper Deck Gold Reserve. We see that pack on the screen. First card out of here is going to be an interesting name pronunciation, as I don't remember this guy, Yaroslav Svikowski, I believe. But that's a cool, it's the same look as the usual one, but just the gold instead of the silver. So I think that's pretty sharp.
Yeah, I love the look of those cards. I can't tell you a damn thing about the player, but certainly a good-looking card.
All right, so next up we got from the Edmonton Oilers, Todd Marchand. Okay. After that, we got Patrice Brisebois, one of the better defensemen there. That's a good-looking card. The Canadiens jersey, just all of that. I'm loving that.
And the Canadiens jersey is just a timeless look.
Then that and the Raiders will never change, I think. Those are 2 that you can just set your watch to. Up next, we got Kenny Johnson, former Islander defenseman, going up against, looks like Brendan Shanahan there, but not the number 8, but I see a sh, and that kind of looks like Shanny. But,
well, that's a Devils uniform. Shanahan wasn't on the Devils by then, so that might have been. I can't tell. That's definitely somebody on the Devils, but what year was this pack?
This is a 98-99, so that is
1998 Devils roster. I'll have to look it up.
It's a number 8, yeah, but we'll see who that is. We got next up. We don't have a Martin St. Louis rookie, but we do have a Martin Jelena base card there with the Hurricanes. Yeah, this
that Devils player, by the way, was Vadim Sharavzhanov, Russian defenseman, played parts of 3 years in the NHL, 75 games with the Devils, also had a cup of coffee with the Canucks. Didn't really last in the league, unfortunately.
A couple of Team Canada inserts here. This is not a great pack. We got Stephen McCarthy, and then this guy looking way too serious here. Kyle Wanvig looking way too serious at the camera.
He's showing those sultry eyes.
He's trying to do more than just take a hockey card. That could easily be like his like online dating profile photo if that existed back then. Let's
Right,
see.
or like if he wanted to get into acting, that could also, I guess, be his headshot for like certain dramatic roles. Like if he wanted to be on like the next like teen comedy, the teen drama, like college student, just I don't know, looking for love. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's like a modern day. To be like a 90210 meets like Saved by the Bell, the college years kind of thing. Yeah, I could see that. We got Terry Yake here, picture, one of the better face-off men of his era, picture with the Blues. And then we close out this pack, a couple of cards here. We've got a Calder candidate, Oleg Kavasha from the Florida Panthers there. Did not win it. And then we're going to close with a guy that's near and dear to your heart, but you're not going to like seeing him in a Ranger sweater, Johnny Mack.
Yeah, Johnny Mack probably was the best offensive player in Devils history before Patrick Elias took that mantle, and yeah, it certainly feels gross seeing him in that jersey.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when he came to the Rangers, like him and Lindros, like yes, they were on the Rangers, but it never really felt like they were, Rangers,
And the Rangers at that era signed a lot of guys off those Devils teams, like between him and like Bobby Holik and Scott Gomez and some of the other guys that they these guys, they won all their cups in Jersey. They all got paid in New York.
Yeah, Gomez contract was terrible.
At least Gomez, they turned into Ryan McDonough.
Exactly. Holik contract was terrible. I don't know, like that one was terrible. I have a random Rangers Bobby Holik autograph puck somewhere. I don't know where, but it's somewhere. I have to send that to you if I find it. But yeah, there you go. There's a pack of 98-99 Upper Deck Gold Reserve. Not a great pack there, but fun to look at least, if nothing else. But I think it's time for baseball now.
Yeah, it's definitely time for baseball. You don't mind pulling up the East Coast camera? That would be greatly appreciated. And I love these packs. They're nice to open, so we certainly like that. We start with the Fleer Action Series, and I guess these are stickers. And I like that. You got the old school logos on there with the Astros and the Reds and, the very racist Braves logo right there. And we go to the back, and it actually has nice little trivia. Of course, they put the trivia upside down in the cards, so certainly don't read that if you want to be surprised. But you have that.
May not be valid anymore.
So we'll just go through the pack really quickly. Mike Benjamin of the Giants, they didn't make the playoffs. Greg Jeffries of the Mets, we talked about them earlier in the show, and they certainly have a chance to make the playoffs if they can win one of these two games today. Randy Milligan of the Cardinals, Mike Felder of the Milwaukee Brewers, who are awaiting one of these teams in the National League Wild Card Series.
Love that Brewers.
Terry Leach with the Kansas City Royals. A shout out to the Royals. 103 losses or 106 losses, whatever it was last year. I actually spent a little bit of money this past offseason, and I thought it was kind of silly at the time. It's like, why are you spending money on like Seth Lugo and Michael Walker to lose like 90 games? But they turned things around. Bobby Witt Jr. had a sensational season. He would be the AL MVP if it weren't for the year Aaron Judge had. So shout out to the Royals. Shout out to Nick Wright. I know he tweeted a few weeks ago about how the Royals would beat the Yankees. We'll see if that ultimately comes to fruition, but I'll certainly be one to shove it in his face if that's not the case. Barry Lyons with the New York Mets, catcher there. Deion James with the Indians, and the classic Indians uniform of that era that was portrayed in the movie Major League. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say portrayed in Major League. Yeah, I mean, it's the Chief Wahoo logo there that they don't use anymore. Now they're the Guardians.
Yep. Tim Leary. You have your checklist card. Greg Litton with the Giants. Been kind of a really ho-hum pack here so far, I'm not going to lie. Wes Gardner with the Red Sox. Les Lancaster with the Chicago Cubs in a nice little spring training warm-up unis that I always like the look of those spring training warm-up unis. The Yankees had a good one too.
Yeah, the V-neck with the primary color. Yeah, that with the logo over the chest. That was always nice.
Yep. Greg Brock with the Brewers. Dan Petrie with the I guess then the California Angels, and Rick Aguilera with the Minnesota Twins, who fell short of making the playoffs. So not really a great end of the season for the Minnesota Twins, who had to deal with a lot of injuries, and the fans there were getting very grumpy, chanting fire Rocco Baldelli, and the team decided, no, we're not going to fire the manager. So I don't know. We'll see how things play out in the Twin Cities.
I mean, other than the White Sox, that AL Central was tough this year.
Yeah, I mean, 3 of the teams made the playoffs, and Minnesota was the one that was, next man up on the outside looking in. So we go right from that. We got another one of those Flair action trivia cards. So probably the coolest part of it is just those little stickers, but
this pack's going to have to save it because we may not be doing a show me your best pull today at this rate.
Well, I'm just taking a quick look at some of these cards, and it's not looking good. I'm going to warn you right now. But we could start Bill Spires with the Brewers.
A lot of Brewers. A lot of Brewers
yeah,
in these packs.
A lot of Brewers in these packs. Jeff Manto with the Angels. Roy Smith with your Minnesota Twins. We just talked about them. Jeff Pico with the Chicago Cubs. Chet Lemon with the Tigers, and Tigers, one of the great second half runs of all time to make it into the playoffs. They sold off several key pieces at the deadline, Jack Flaherty and Mark Hanna, and they were like, we're selling, we're packing in for next year. And the Tigers as a team were like, well, you didn't tell us, like, the hell with that. We're just going to go ahead and win 70% of our games down the stretch and make the playoffs. And
that's another team that was like kind of like in the middle of a rebuild, and like all of a sudden they find themselves in the playoffs. Tariq Skubal having a fantastic season, so they're a team to look out for in the next few seasons as well.
Yep, team to look out for in the playoffs. The San Diego Padres, probably the best player we've pulled in either one of these packs so far is Gary Templeton. Okay, really good shortstop for a long time in the big leagues. We have a Major League Prospects card with Mike Huff and Steve Frey.
It's a good looking card. I mean, I do like the look of the Fleer 90 card. It's like your classic baseball card. Like if you're gonna say like, give me one baseball card from the 80s/90s, like that's the look to me.
Yep. All right. Well, this pack does pick up a little bit through in the second half, so we have that. We have John Wetland here with the Dodgers. Obviously, was the Yankees closer during the '96 World Series. Long-time Major League pitcher in his younger days, Jamie Moyer, who was like 5 years into the league at this point. He pitched forever, but certainly longevity was the hallmark of his career.
It goes to show you if you're a lefty, you can really make a career last in the majors.
Yep. Hubie Brooks, outfielder with the Expos, another nice classic spring training look there with the pullover jersey.
Yeah, the Expos going with the red instead of the blue there. That was a good decision.
We have Bob Boone, catcher card, not a manager card, a catcher card. Pat Clements. And you know what? Just looking at that, Aaron certainly looks a lot like his old man. So
he does, yeah. I mean, actually, Aaron Boone makes that face during games for sure.
Yeah. Pat Clements, pitcher with the San Diego Padres. We got our first Yankee of the pack, Steve Sachs. Hopefully, no longer in trouble with the law with the Springfield Police Department.
There are a lot of unsolved murders in New York. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
You just don't know when to pipe down, Saxy boy. Brian Meyer, pitcher with the Astros, and last but not least, Hall of Famer Bert Blyleven, pitcher here with the California Angels, but also pitched with the Twins. I think he pitched for the Indians too. So that's it. Not really a whole lot to go here for pull of the day. So if you want to make it John McClane in a Rangers jersey, be my guest. He could win that one.
I mean, I'm basically saying it's one of these base cards between Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, or Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's what we're looking at today. Not a great lineup today.
It's not a great lineup, but you know what? It is what it is. Sometimes you get the dud.
Sometimes you get the dud, just like Marge Simpson pointed out once to Millhouse. Or pointed out to Homer as they're playing the game, but that look resembled a lot like Millhouse. I mean, that really did look like him.
Yeah, funny how that works out on an animated sitcom, but all right, let's just get to the starting lineup.
All right, starting lineup figure 5. We'll put a wrap on things here today on this edition of Rip and Riff. So today we're gonna go hockey. We talked a little hockey before at the pack, so we'll do a little hockey today. And that's all Jared's going to get here is it's a hockey player. And without further ado, you may ask your first question.
Because I do get 5 questions to try to narrow this down a little bit. So I'm going to start by asking whether or not this player is in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
He is a Hockey Hall of Famer, yes.
All right. Good start. Did this player ever win Lord Stanley's Cup?
He won it twice.
He won it twice. Ooh, interesting. Now, I always like to go era specific because that's usually when these starting lineups were era specific. So I could be barking up the wrong tree with some of these questions forthcoming. But did this player win his Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings?
No.
Did this player win his Stanley Cups with the New Jersey Devils?
No. You're sniffing in the right area, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Did this player win his Stanley Cups with the Colorado Avalanche?
Correct. There you go. So you've burned through your 5 questions very quickly, but you've narrowed it down to probably just a couple of players. So,
yeah, just a couple of players. I probably should have asked a better questions to narrow it down further, but I mean, starting lineups are mass produced, so they're only going to go with very specific players. And Colorado Avalanche, is it Joe Sakic?
You love to say the right church, the wrong pew, and you had to go to Sweden for this one. Mr. Peter Forsberg.
Peter Forsberg.
You had a 50-50 chance. Once you get it down to Colorado, it's one of those 2 guys.
Yeah, you knew it was one of the 2, and it wasn't going to be Ray Bourque because he was only there for the 2001 Cup. So I don't feel bad about missing that one. I honestly probably played it a little fast and loose with the questions. And frankly, if I guessed Colorado first instead of Detroit or New Jersey, it would have gotten there. So I don't feel bad about missing this one. Forsberg can stay in the plastic for all I care.
And that box is in good shape. So he's got a good home right now. So 2 weeks in a row, Jared swings and misses, but he was good for so long before that. So like the overall, he's still first ballot Hall of Famer on the figure 5. Now he won't be joining the starting lineup studio audience next week. This week decided to go with the baseball playoffs kicking off. Decided to go with the Legends of the Fall for baseball here. A couple of classic looks there. So Reggie Jackson from the 1990 Classic Doubles making it into the studio audience 2 weeks in a row. Then we have Hank Aaron and Jackie Robinson from the same 1997 Classic Doubles series. They were in the box together. And then, of course, how could you have a Legends of the Fall without Mr. Mariano Rivera pictured there on the right?
It looks like both Reggie Jackson and Hank Aaron are playing cricket with how their bats are crooked.
Yeah, well, storage dictates that these bats sometimes bend. They can be bent back. I just don't have the patience to do it right now until I can get them in proper storage and not just like in plastic bags in a duffel bag, basically, is what I am limited to right now.
Ooh, I've been meaning to ask how you've been keeping some of these starting lineups. I guess that's how you don't just have them all on a shelf or something.
So I have a display, which maybe I'll in post-production I'll take a picture of and throw it up on the screen here. That has like starting lineups, McFarland's, bobbleheads, things like that. So those are for like the the Jets, Barry Sanders, the guys that are near and dear to me. And then whoever's not on that display is stored in a closet in a duffel bag. But that needs to improve.
Got it.
So there we go. And like we mentioned earlier, big hockey week, fantasy hockey week here. Catch the live Total Hockey Now 12-team redraft league Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern. That draft will kick off. Probably take the air about 20 or 30 minutes before that. And then, like we mentioned earlier, all about thejersey.com for all Devils content that Jared's doing. And Jared has had a busy weekend of poker, and I'm sure we will see some of the results of that here at YouTube at Jared Moore Poker.
Actually, probably won't see a lot of it because I can't shoot in the casino.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was casino this weekend. It wasn't just, got it.
They don't let me do it. And I did finish third in my game on Saturday. But honestly, not a lot of hands that were really all that interesting for that. I have one that's interesting that I'll eventually use, but I still have to go through and pull the footage.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's quality stuff there. Check it out, whether you play poker or not. It's always a fun short to watch. But that'll do it for this edition of Rip N Riff here on the Rip N Riff YouTube channel. Don't forget, give us a follow, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, either on YouTube or a follow on Twitter or Facebook is much appreciated. We'll be back with you with an all-new episode next week. We'll be into the baseball playoffs, another week of football, hockey season's on the way. It's going to be a lot of fun. But for at Mr. Jared Moore, I am at Fucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. We'll be back with you next week, all-new episode of R&R here on the Rip N Riff YouTube channel. Thanks, folks.